in Israel that I have a special contact to, obviously. The tents were torn down, sometimes peacefully, sometimes violently, but the movement didn't stop just because the tents weren't there. And our movement is also not going to stop. On the contrary, we're going to have more energies for further actions, and we're going to meet here every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 and every Sunday at 3:30. So please come to our GAs, join our actions, and let's keep the fire burning.
Yeah!
Hi, my name's Ilana, and I live up in New York City, and I've been really involved in the Occupy Wall Street movement up there. So just want to say solidarity from New York, and it's really cool to see what you have going on here. I can attest firsthand to that the movement doesn't end when the tents are taken down. So I'm excited to see what happens from here, and just really want to reflect on how cool it is that the movement, in the very least, has been teaching so many people around the entire world these common tools in consensus decision-making and just different things like what a people's mic is, what an open mic is, and just like learning how to listen to one another and work together. And I just want to reflect on how awesome that is and how much that kind of is one outcome in itself. So I look forward to hopefully meeting more of you here and wish you all the best.
Hi, I'm Will. Had an outstanding time. I'm going to hold it down and try to paint the rails and make sure everything gets cleaned up good around here. And after that, I really don't know what I'm going to do, but I do appreciate the experience. It wasn't at all what I expected, and I hope y'all continue to stand behind yourself, for yourself, and with yourself. No fear. No fear. On the subject of no fear. Who was here the first night that we occupied this place? A few people, right? Do you remember the first meeting at which it was decided that we would occupy this place? There's a lot of doubts, a lot of concern. None of us knew what it would look like to have an occupation here. We did not have a permit. We had not talked to the authorities. We didn't know if it was possible. The only precedent we could come up with was from the 1960s, you know. And when the question came up in the General Assembly whether people would stay here, at first it was an abstract question. People said, "Oh, that's not possible," or maybe we should meet more, or maybe we should talk about it. And a few people said, "No, I'm going to stay here tonight." And it was their courage that made it possible for everybody else to imagine that this could really happen. You know? That night, I came here sitting down to talk about what the occupation would look like, what would happen, you know, and I remember a person that I'd never met before sitting next to me, and the question comes up, what will we do if the police come? And she says, you know, she's about my age, you know, it looks like a conservative person, she says, well, I'm not leaving. You know. And it was that courage, just coming from people who hadn't met each other before, taking that leap of faith to believe in each other that made this possible, I think, you know. I want to say, people are talking about this like it's the end. For me, these struggles have been going on for years, for decades, in this town that I grew up in. And really, you know, this is the middle of winter, actually. It's funny there are so many people gathered here right now. 2012 is going to be a huge year. There's going to be so much happening this year. Not just an election, either, you know. You can vote, you know, it takes an hour once a year, once every few years, right? But all of the time, we can use our power to make the world that we want to live in, you know, to create that at every moment. And that's why this has worked. Harry earlier said, we need you for Occupy Chapel Hill. The fact is, we need each other. Because in a world in which we are disconnected from each other, in which we are alienated from ourselves and from our own potential as a community, we can only realize that by organizing together, by acting together, by taking that leap of courageous faith that I mentioned, which has happened over and over throughout the process of Occupy Chapel Hill, and is definitely going to continue to happen. 2012 is going to be a big year. Thank you for being with us.
And I actually haven't really been involved with Occupy Chapel Hill. The reason I want to come up here and say something is that there's a lot more sadness in some of the folks talking here than I was anticipating, because I came feeling like I was invited to a party. And if you have any doubt at all that the impact of Occupy extends beyond the encampment and beyond the plaza, Occupy has meant so much to me in the last few months, so much. Changed the way that I talk about politics and the way that I imagine the rest of my life, and the way I imagine what this country and this world can be and what it can do, and the way I talk about it with anyone, the way I talk about it with my grandparents or my friends, things that were not, you couldn't say, you can say. So I'm here to party.
Next.
Hi guys, my name is Tate. I just wanted to call out to the student in me and any students on the street and any students in that school. I've been attending UNC Chapel Hill for the last 6-7 months, and I would like to say that is only one half of the education. I think maybe even less than half. Much less than half. And I think that being at this Occupy for the time that I was able to spend and the time that I was able to make, and I know compared to other people or compared to how I wanted to spend my time, it wasn't as much as I would have liked. But I know that I grew more than I did in my Econ 101 class. And I would just like to say that I think I would really like to see more students here, because I think this is part of life. This is part of growing up. This is part of becoming the person who you want to be. And after spending time in New York and after spending time here, I know I want to be an activist when I grow up. I want to keep doing stuff like this.
You already are! You already are!
Thanks, guys.
Next.
Yeah, hi. My name is Luis, and I was here from day one. And unfortunately, it didn't work out like we all wanted it to do. Because I got out of hand and all kinds of stuff. But we did see a lot of people, and we spread the word around, and a lot of people got a lot of information. And the information that they brought, and the information that they gave to other people, informing people what was going on. It's not just about corporate greed. It's about all the programs that are being shut down, and the people don't realize what's happening. When it affects you personally, that's when you say, hey, my friend has been working for 30 years. How come you can't get no disability? How come the hospitals are not helping us? People with cancer. I met a lady that came here, and she nearly got on her knees and said, it's wonderful. Unfortunately, my husband's dying. This is his last phase of cancer, but he's still getting all the necessary, treatment that is at. And she was blessed, and she realizes that a lot of people are losing a lot of privileges simply because nobody says anything until it affects you personally. So when you realize that something like that is happening, you have to spread the word and tell, because the programs are being shut down and nobody's doing nothing about it, and the billionaires are getting richer and richer. We're doing something about it. We fight their wars and stuff like that, because I know a bunch of people in here don't have oil companies in Iran, Iraq, and they don't even pay for their own wars. Who pays for those wars? In Iran, Iraq, and they don't even pay for their own wars.